But this is the story that has me fired up tonight. In 2 days, Americans will decide if they want to give the Democrats more time to fix this country, or if the power is going to be given to the psycho talkers like Michele Bachmann, who wants to do nothing but investigate. Well, tonight, I'm deep in the heart of Michele Bachmann's district here at the American Burger Emporium in Woodbury, Minnesota. Before we go any farther, how about them Vikings? Although we are trailing New England by a few points. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. All right. Now, a lot of people in Minnesota in this 6th district think that this is actually ground zero for the ideological battle that's taken place in this country. It's also the site of the most expensive race, believe it or not, in this midterm. How about this? Over $15 million has been spent between the two candidates to win this turf. Bachmann alone has raised over $11 million to hold off a surging campaign of Minnesota State Senator Terrell Clark. Now, Bachmann is spending over $187,000 a commercial to paint Clark as a tax and spend Nancy Pelosi liberal. And Bachmann, of course, is pulling out all stops to save her seat. Now, the Congresswoman is even using her mom to scare Minnesota voters. On Friday, the Bachmann camp sent out her mother's letter to voters from her mother, Jean LaFave. Now, Michele's mother called Terrell Clark a hypocritical disgrace, and she goes on to say that I have never seen a candidate for higher office stoop as low as you with your false and vulgar attacks. Well, the Clark camp, they didn't take that sitting down. They fired back to Bachmann's mother. Her campaign fired back a letter to Bachmann herself with this statement. When someone stands up to the bullies like Michele Bachmann, the bullies often go running to their moms. Voters deserve better. Now, Clark is running an amazing ground game working the college campuses. She has put her $4.1 million to work on what I think has been a fabulous door-to-door ground campaign. In the meantime, Bill Clinton, Al Franken, Amy Klobuchar have been working the district to help out Terrell Clark. And I think this race seriously has the potential of shocking the political experts. There's been very little polling in this district, and I think Michele Bachmann likes it that way. And if Terrell Clark can knock off the queen of psycho talk, it would be a big loss for the Tea Party. And I think it would also show Democrats the game plan when it comes to combating the crazy. If you'll remember correctly, it was not long ago that Michele Bachmann was basically put on the national scene when she told my colleague Chris Matthews on Hardball that she thought that members of Congress should be investigated for their anti-American thoughts. Well, that created quite a stir here in Minnesota. And, of course, as a reporter and an anchor, I was kind of surprised to hear that she thought that there were members of Congress who actually had anti-American thoughts. Joining me now is Terrell Clark, the Democrat challenging Congresswoman Michele Bachmann in this Minnesota's 6th district. Terrell, great to have you with us tonight.
It's great to be back.
What are the major differences between, a little fun here now, folks, between you and Michele Bachmann? She talks crazy and you don't. You've had to have fun with this campaign.
Well, you know, it is Halloween, so what I would say is what's scary is what her vision for America is. You know, if you think about it, she said that teachers are money launderers, making BP pay was extortion. Our firefighters, our police officers, our veterans, they're wasteful government spending. People my age should be weaned off of Social Security and Medicare, you know. And most recently, I mean, you might find this hard to believe, on Thursday, she actually accused our 9/11 first responders of fraud. She was afraid. She claimed that the reason why she voted against making sure their health was taken care of was that they would commit fraud. Well, that's wrong. That's not what our American heroes are about, that's for sure.
You are underfunded by the tune of $7 million. How have you been able to manage the ground game at such a terrible financial disadvantage? What has that been like?
Well, a couple things. I mean, you'd think after being in Congress for 4 years that she'd have something to say for herself. And instead, as you said, she's been spending over $10 million saying lies about me. Well, what we've got instead is not only truth on our side, but we've got these incredible people who are here with us tonight and across the district. You know, last week she finally decided it was okay to debate. So 1 week out from the election, we had a little pre-debate rally. We had over 300 people show up. How many did she have? 30. Well, I think she has a little bit of an enthusiasm gap. And what we know in Minnesota is that if we really want to fix our communities, move our country forward, that we have to come together. So we've been going neighbor to neighbor, door to door, all through the spring, all through the summer. She has no ground game. That's why she's trying to buy this election. But we've got great, incredible volunteers. That's how we're going to win.
She has no ground game comparable to yours, despite having a $7 million advantage?
I think she thinks that if she sends out attack lit every day, radio ads lying, and TV lying, that's enough. But what we really know in Minnesota is that when push comes to shove, it's about neighbors talking to neighbors, and that's how we're cutting through all these lies.
The Catholic vote, I keep hearing, is going to go to Michelle Bachmann. You agree with that?
No. I think, you know, we are communities, we're a state that really is about social justice and, again, about strengthening our communities. And I've spent my life not just talking the talk, which is all she's been doing, but really walking the walk. It's about our seniors, our veterans, our families, our communities. And so we're making sure we're reaching out to people so they know the truth.
Well, there's a huge Catholic contingency in St. Cloud, and many people have told me that the 6th District of Minnesota is so one issue. How have you reached out to those voters with this ground game that you've had? That's where you have spent your money, the door-to-door, the phone banking, the mailing, all of the grassroots kind of stuff that candidates do when they're outgunned by $7 million. But, of course, you can't match what she's been able to do on television because of the money. So how do you plan on convincing that portion of the district, that portion of the population, that may be that one issue, that Catholic vote that I keep hearing about in this district? What are you going to do to sway those people?
Well, I represent that area right now in the state Senate, and nobody ever thought that I would win that. I wanted a Christmas election. Literally, the governor set up our election to be right after Christmas. Christmas was Sunday. Monday, the polls were closed. Tuesday was the election. No college students around. Many families gone. But the way we won that is by going, again, neighbor to neighbor, door to door. And the issues really that affect people are things like jobs, making sure we're getting back to work. Michelle's voted 11 times to outsource our jobs. Things like making sure our Social Security, our Medicare is
Let's talk about that outsourcing. She's voted 11 times to outsource jobs.
Absolutely.
Give me one example.
Well, most recently, right, the week before Congress adjourned, along with voting against our first responders, she voted for the bill that really has to do with the Chinese currency. It absolutely helps those companies that want to grow jobs in China. I want to grow jobs here. The miscellaneous tariffs bill, this is a whole bunch of wonky terms for your viewers, but those are things that our industry and our people know can help us create jobs here. Now, this last week, all of a sudden, she's talking about jobs, but the only jobs she's created in 4 years are in China and in Vietnam and Pakistan. We want to create jobs in Minnesota.
She has been... Michelle Bachmann has been relentless on the president and the health care reform bill. Do you think passing that bill was good for Minnesota? Was it the right thing to do? And to counter, or maybe you agree with it, it was, she calls it Obamacare. And she bullet points the right-wing stuff tremendously, but she has really vilified President Obama and health care. What's your response to that?
Well, she's taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from the industry, and then she's done their talking points absolutely down the road. But you know what? The health care bill, while flawed, and I think we can use some good old Minnesota ingenuity.
But a start?
Oh, absolutely. For the first time ever, the insurance companies can't discriminate based on pre-existing conditions.
So you don't run from the health care bill?
No, but I will tell you what Minnesotans and Americans will get if Michelle Bachmann has her way. The insurance company could have no rules at all. Forget what we just passed. Forget hitting them on the companies on discrimination. We could be buying air essentially, and she just wants people to be able to deduct insurance. And if you think about it, that means we're getting a big tax increase or a big pay cut. That's not what Americans are about.
Do you think she's extreme?
I think that the positions she takes are way outside of the mainstream. And what's most important is they're dangerous for our communities. She's voted against every single measure that would help us create a job, help a family stay in their home, or help a family struggling make ends meet. And if we have enough time, can I tell you a quick story? Because I think it's what it's all about. Is, you know, while she's been taking all this big money, there's a woman named Donnie. Her family story is similar to others I've heard. Her and her husband were working and trying to make sure they could stay in their house. But after every avenue, they were going to be foreclosed on. So as a last resort, they called our Congresswoman's official office. And you know what happened? She was asked, are you a supporter? Her official office. And when she said no, the phone was disconnected. Now, at the same time, she has been rewarding the people with the deep pockets, the industry, Wall Street, and others. And that includes, you know, a couple years ago when she had a big supporter who asked her for a pardon, a cocaine dealer, a gun runner. And you know what? When he came calling, she helped him out.
Why has she gone out and raised $11 million? Do you think her aspirations are far beyond the 6th District of Minnesota?
You know, it's hard to tell what she's running for, but it certainly isn't for the 6th District because she's not representing anybody that's in the district. By her own admission, she hasn't done a single thing that's helped anybody in the district.
Will you get a turnout? I mean, everywhere we go across the country, we hear about an enthusiasm gap. What is it here in Minnesota?
Well, like I said, I think she's the one with the enthusiasm gap. We've won the debates. We've won on the ground. We're going to win at the doors. And while there's a great group of people that are sitting in here right now, they're all going to be getting back to work as soon as your show's over to make sure we're getting the vote out, right?
Are you running with President Obama, or are you distancing yourself from President Obama? Does he still play well in Minnesota?
You know, he certainly has done a lot of things. He's been here recently with Mark Dayton, who is our great candidate for governor, who's going to be the next governor. There's many good things. But as President Clinton was saying, you know, the Republicans and George Bush really dug us into a huge hole. We've stopped digging. It's time to dig out. I'll be honest with you. I don't care what somebody's party is. I don't care what they're the Republicans, Democrats, Independents. If they actually want to move our country forward and focus on the issues that are affecting the people in our district, that's who I want to work with.
But you were with President Obama.
I actually was out in the district making sure I was talking to the people who are going to be voting because we don't have any time. Didn't have time for those rallies. Needed to be spending time with our voters.
Terrell Clark, good to have you with us on The Ed Show. Thanks so much. All the best to you.
It's good to be here.
You bet.